Welcome to Golden Star Memories. There was a time when the silver screen did not just reflect reality, but created a realm of living gods and goddesses. It was an era of ultimate grandeur, where the flashbulbs of the paparazzi captured a world drenched in satin, velvet, and permanent mystique. These legendary Hollywood stars seemed larger than life, their every movement choreographed to perfection, their voices echoing like timeless melodies in the hearts of millions. From the ultimate symbol of rugged masculinity, defined by Clint Eastwood, to the smooth, velvet-voiced sophistication of Billy D. Williams, cinema created archetypes that shaped the very fabric of global culture. We gazed at the ethereal beauty of stars like Mia Farrow and Tuesday Weld, whose fragile, haunting screen presences captivated audiences, yet hinted at something deeply mysterious hidden beneath the surface. There was an intoxicating magic to it all. The fierce independence of Jane Fonda, the rugged charm of Robert Redford, and the aristocratic command of Maggie Smith. They were the architects of our dreams, wrapped in a perfect facade of glamour and confidence. Yet, beneath the blinding spotlights and the roar of adoring crowds, a quiet, parallel drama was always unfolding. Behind the heavy studio doors, the human beings behind these immortal personas faced a reality that no script could ever capture. What happens when the music fades, the technicolor hues dim, and the idols of an entire generation are left with only their memories? The perfect facade often masked intense behind-the-scenes struggles, hidden pain, sudden health crises, and complex personal transformations. Some, like Bridget Fonda or Jean Shrimpton, chose to completely vanish from the public eye, trading international fame for absolute privacy, away from the relentless cameras. Others faced sudden turning points that shook their foundations, like Bob Odenkirk, navigating a life-threatening health recovery, or figures like Roman Polanski finding their legacies forever entangled in fierce controversy. As we embark on this journey into the shadows of the past, we begin to uncover the secrets that Hollywood tried so desperately to hide or preserve. We trace the steps of those who defined sophisticated glamour, from striking icons like Ursula Andress to rugged legends like Tom Skerritt. We look at the titans who recently left us, leaving an irreplaceable void, and those who continue to live quietly, guarding the secrets of an era that will never return. The gold may have tarnished, but the mysteries remain. Step into the shadows with us as we begin to unravel what truly lay behind the flawless, shimmering surface of Hollywood's greatest legends. The journey to the absolute pinnacle of Hollywood was never a simple stroke of lucky fate. It was an exhausting, deliberate alchemy designed by a studio system that demanded total submission from those it chose to elevate. For the bright-eyed dreamers who arrived on those sun-drenched backlots, the transformation from an ordinary individual into a cinematic icon was both thrilling and terrifying. Think of the boundless energy of Leslie Caron or Mitzi Gaynor, whose radiant smiles and flawless dances in legendary musicals made them the very definition of Hollywood joy, or Rhonda Fleming, whose breathtaking appearance earned her the enduring title of the Queen of Technicolor. To the public, their ascent seemed entirely effortless, a natural extension of their innate brilliance and charm. Television later created its own pantheon of instantly recognizable faces, where John Schneider and Tom Wopat captured the hearts of millions with their rugged, free-spirited Southern charm. And Tom Baker redefined a science fiction legend with his eccentric brilliance and booming voice. In those golden years, the spotlight felt like a warm, protective embrace, magnifying the commanding presence of actors like John Rhys-Davies and the sharp, energetic humor of Howie Mandel. Every premiere was a triumph, every magazine cover a testament to their unassailable status. The world belonged to them, and the intoxicating hum of the cameras promised that this beautiful, shimmering moment would last forever. But the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And behind that shimmering curtain of adoration lay a relentless machine fueled by control and compromise. The studios demanded absolute perfection, constructing an armor of glamour that left no room for human frailty or personal struggle. Behind the quiet, rugged masculinity of Robert Fuller, Tom Skerritt, and Joe Don Baker, or the aristocratic, piercing intensity of Charles Dance, lay an unspoken expectation to never falter, to always embody the idealized hero. For the women who defined the era's elegance, like the breathtakingly beautiful Jill St. John, the mesmerizing Nancy Kovac, and the international sensation, Britt Ekland. The pressure to maintain an unblemished aesthetic facade was immense. Every public appearance was meticulously choreographed, every romance carefully vetted by publicists, and every private sorrow forcefully buried beneath layers of makeup and smiles. This burden was amplified tenfold for trailblazing pioneers like Diane Carroll and Jane Kennedy, who did not just carry the weight of their own careers, but the immense cultural expectations of a changing society, breaking barriers in television and media while under the constant, unforgiving scrutiny of a world hesitant to accept them. The spotlight was not just a source of warmth, it was a magnifying glass that exposed every flaw, forcing these icons to live in a gilded cage where their true selves were systematically replaced by marketable illusions as the years advanced. The cracks in these carefully constructed facades began to widen, revealing the deep emotional toll of a life spent in constant service to the screen. For method actors and intense dramatic forces like Dustin Hoffman, Bruce Dern, and Armin Mueller-Stahl, the boundaries between the complex characters they portrayed and their own psychological realities often grew dangerously blurred. They poured their rawest anxieties and deepest pains into their work, creating masterpieces of realism, yet leaving themselves utterly exhausted behind closed doors. In the creative trenches, the friction was palpable. The brilliant Elaine May pushed the boundaries of intellectual comedy to its absolute limits, navigating an industry that was often hostile to independent female visionaries, while the complex, introspective worlds of storytellers like Woody Allen generated immense artistic triumphs that were increasingly shadowed by private complexities and shifting public perceptions. The industry was evolving, transitioning away from the traditional studio system into a more chaotic, cynical landscape, leaving many established stars to wonder if the rules they had mastered still applied. The behind-the-scenes intrigues grew more intense as roles became scarcer and studio executives became less protective, forcing legends to fight fiercely for their relevance in a town known for its short memory and cold heart. This shifting landscape brought a profound sense of vulnerability to those who had once seemed completely untouchable. Actresses like Gene Simmons, Eleanor Parker, and Susanna York possessed an innate, emotionally elegant grace that captivated audiences. Yet they frequently found themselves navigating a cutthroat industry that rarely valued the depth of their sensitivity once the bloom of youth was deemed to have faded. The quiet, grounded presence of stars like Angie Dickinson, Barbara Bain, and Claire Bloom hid a quiet resilience as they balanced major personal upheavals, crumbling marriages, and the constant fear of irrelevance with the dignity expected of classic Hollywood royalty. Even the world of international high fashion and cinema, epitomized by the revolutionary, avant-garde beauty of Veruschka von Lehndorff, or the striking sophistication of Jeroen Krabbe and Hector Elizondo, was not immune to the creeping chill of changing times. They had all given their youth, their energy, and their private lives to the altar of public entertainment, only to realize that the industry's embrace was entirely transactional. The applause was intoxicating, but it could not fill the quiet voids left by years of sacrificed privacy, broken promises, and the constant, haunting knowledge that the next bright young thing was always waiting in the wings to take their place. By the dawn of the late 20th century, the atmosphere in Hollywood had fundamentally transformed, setting the stage for deeper, more permanent fractures within its legendary elite. The glittering illusion of the golden years was beginning to give way to a harsher, more demanding reality where the secrets kept behind closed doors could no longer be easily contained by studio publicists. The smooth confidence of leading men like Michael Douglas and the captivating, vulnerable brilliance of actresses like Jill Clayburgh, Meg Tilly, and Susan Wooldridge reflected a new era of storytelling, one that demanded raw honesty rather than sanitized perfection. Yet, even as cinema embraced this modern realism, the ghosts of the old ways lingered. Whispers of behind-the-scenes betrayals, hidden health crises, and bitter professional rivalries began to circulate through the industry corridors. The immense pressure to sustain a legendary identity began to fracture the lives of those who had seemed invincible, setting off a chain reaction of personal and public crises that would forever alter their destinies. The perfect, shimmering surface was about to shatter completely, exposing the raw, unvarnished human truth that lay waiting in the shadows, ready to redefine everything the world thought it knew about the idols of the silver screen. The delicate illusion of Hollywood perfection was never built to last forever, and when the cracks finally appeared, they did so with a devastating, earth-shattering force. For decades, the major film studios and powerful media networks had operated as master illusionists, meticulously guarding the private lives of their most valuable assets. Society was fed a carefully curated diet of flawless romances, glittering premieres, and manufactured triumphs, while the darker, more turbulent realities were aggressively swept under the heavy Persian rugs of executive offices. But behind those closed doors, away from the intoxicating glare of the flashbulbs, a completely different story was being written. A story defined by deep psychological strain, sudden betrayals, and overwhelming isolation. The very attributes that made these stars so mesmerizing on screen. Their profound emotional vulnerability, their intense, unpredictable gazes, and their chaotic inner drives were often the exact forces that threatened to destroy them in their private hours. When a turning point arrived, it didn't just disrupt a career, it shattered the fragile barrier between the public myth and the raw, unvarnished human being underneath, leaving the world to witness the sudden, agonizing fall of its most cherished idols. Nowhere was this dramatic fracturing more evident than in the lives of cinema's most complex and controversial creators, where the brilliance of their art became permanently inseparable from the storm of public scandal. Roman Polanski had reached the absolute heights of international cinematic influence, reshaping the language of modern Hollywood storytelling through psychological thrillers that left audiences breathless. Yet behind the scenes, his life descended into a vortex of massive legal and public controversies that eventually forced him to live almost entirely outside the United States, creating a profound, permanent exile that remains one of the most fiercely debated subjects in film history. Similarly, Woody Allen, who for decades had been celebrated as a quintessential intellectual comedic icon, found his immense cultural influence increasingly overshadowed by profound private complexities and intense public scrutiny, ultimately leading him to largely avoid Hollywood public life altogether, preferring the quiet detachment of European artistic circles. The industry that had once blindly worshipped their creative genius was forced into an uncomfortable silence, torn between preserving the lucrative masterpieces they created and confronting the deeply unsettling human dramas that unfolded completely outside the boundaries of the movie script. This collision between public expectation and private torment was felt with an equal, quiet intensity by the legendary women who had once symbolized the absolute pinnacle of cinematic grace. Mia Farrow, whose delicate ethereal beauty and hauntingly vulnerable performances had captivated audiences in unforgettable masterpieces, found her own life transformed into a highly publicized battleground of emotional turmoil and complex family dramas that played out under the ruthless glare of the international media. The fragile elegance that the public loved so deeply on screen was tested by real-world heartbreaks and profound betrayals that would have broken a lesser spirit, forever altering her trajectory and leading her away from the superficiality of Hollywood toward a life dedicated to humanitarian advocacy. For stars like Tuesday Weld and Meg Tilly, the realization that the studio system and public opinion could be incredibly cruel and fickle led to a profound internal shift. They had looked behind the curtain of the great Hollywood machine and seen the cold, transactional nature of fame, realizing that the very society that applauded their emotional honesty on screen would eagerly exploit their real-life vulnerabilities for the sake of a sensational headline, beyond the legal scandals and media circuses. The most terrifying turning points were often those delivered by the fragile realities of the human body. Moments where the illusion of cinematic immortality was instantly shattered by sudden health crises. Bob Odenkirk, who had brilliantly transformed himself from a sharp comedic writer into one of television's most widely admired and emotionally layered dramatic leading men, faced a terrifying, near-fatal wake-up call during the production of his landmark series. His sudden, on-set cardiac incident in 2021 blurred the lines between fiction and reality in a heartbeat, leaving fans around the world in a state of collective shock as he fought for his life completely away from the cameras. This intense brush with mortality forced a profound re-evaluation of his life and career, leading him to speak openly and courageously about his ongoing recovery. In a similar vein, the smooth, confident leading man Michael Douglas, a symbol of slick charisma and corporate power for a generation, had to confront a brutal, deeply private battle with cancer. The diagnosis forced a pause in a legendary career that had defined Hollywood cool, shifting his immense energy away from the demands of box office success and toward cancer awareness, personal survival, and the quiet preservation of his family life. Even the domain of pure entertainment saw its walls breach when Howie Mandel bravely chose to strip away his manic, energetic comedic persona to openly discuss his severe OCD and mental health struggles, revealing the exhausting silent war he had been fighting against his own mind while making millions laugh. When the weight of these hidden dramas, constant scrutiny, and industry betrayal became truly unbearable, some of Hollywood's brightest stars chose the ultimate, most shocking act of defiance: absolute disappearance. Bridget Fonda, a spectacular, naturally charming leading lady who defined 1990s sophisticated cinema, stunned the entertainment industry by walking away completely from public life at the height of her viability, choosing absolute privacy and family over the relentless, invasive demands of celebrity culture. Her total withdrawal left a profound silence in Hollywood, a stark reminder that some souls simply refuse to be consumed by the fame machine. Jean Shrimpton, who had completely redefined international fashion and cultural imagery with her revolutionary modeling style, similarly chose to vanish from the roaring capitals of glamour, seeking an anonymous, quiet existence far removed from the cameras that had immortalized her youth. These sudden exiles, profound scandals, and terrifying crises served as a harsh awakening for audiences worldwide. They proved that the Golden Age was not a sanctuary of permanent happiness, but a complex labyrinth where the price of stardom was often paid in the currency of private peace, leaving behind a legacy that was as much about surviving the system as it was about conquering it. The passage of time is the one equalizer that even the most powerful studio heads could never control, and as the chapters of this glorious era steadily close, we are left to marvel at the immense legacies of the titans who have recently left the stage. The world felt a collective pang of grief with the passing of Maggie Smith in 2024 at the age of 89, a legendary performer whose sharp wit and aristocratic voice made her an international treasure, leaving an irreplaceable void in the worlds of theatre, film, and global television through her unforgettable roles in Downton Abbey and Harry Potter. Soon after, the year 2025 witnessed the departure of Robert Redford at 89, a man who redefined classic American masculinity with his golden hair and calm confidence in masterpieces like The Sting, and whose enduring monument to the arts, the Sundance Institute, remains a sanctuary for independent filmmaking and artistic freedom. The same year marked the final curtain for Joe Don Baker at 89, whose rough masculinity and deep voice had defined a completely different, rugged sector of action cinema. These recent losses echo the deep departures of earlier years, such as the trailblazing Diahann Carroll, who passed away in 2019 at 84, leaving a monumental legacy of elegance and historical importance that changed the face of television forever in Julia. We remember the timeless screen sophistication of the radiant Rhonda Fleming, who lived to the remarkable age of 97 before passing away in 2020, dedicating her final decades to incredible philanthropy. The elegant Eleanor Parker, who passed away in 2013 at 91, left us with the permanent magic of her grace in The Sound of Music, while the emotionally refined Susanna York in 2011, the extraordinarily talented Gene Simmons in 2010, and the deeply authentic Jill Clayburgh in 2010, all left behind a rich tapestry of dramatic brilliance that continues to inspire modern performers. Their physical presence is gone, but the mark they left on history remains completely indelible, a golden imprint that time can never wash away for the icons who continue to walk among us. The later years of life have become a masterclass in creative endurance and personal reinvention, proving that the true fire of an artist is never easily extinguished. Clint Eastwood stands as an almost mythical figure in this regard. At 96 years old, he completely bypasses the traditional notions of retirement, choosing instead to remain deeply active in directing films while living a quiet, private life that fiercely preserves one of the most legendary identities in cinema history. Beside him stands Jane Fonda, who at 88 continues to project an aura of brilliant, athletic beauty and fearless conviction, channeling her immense charisma into urgent global humanitarian causes, public speaking, and insightful documentaries, while still making selective, powerful screen appearances. This devotion to a life of meaning and creation takes many beautiful forms across the landscape of classic Hollywood. The profound German actor Armin Mueller-Stahr, now 95, has gracefully shifted his intense intelligence away from the movie sets to immerse himself completely in painting and music, crafting a serene, deeply fulfilling creative retirement. This artistic transition is mirrored by the sophisticated Jeroen Krabbe, who at 82 brilliantly balances his selective acting projects with a passionate dedication to painting, writing, and directing within prestigious European art circles. Meanwhile, the legendary Bruce Dern, at 90, continues to bring his intense gaze and rugged individuality to selective acting roles, remaining highly respected as one of cinema's greatest character actors. While the brilliant creative pioneer Elaine May, at 94, remains celebrated as a foundational pillar of modern entertainment whose intellectual humor influenced entire generations of storytellers in an industry that so often discards its past. Many beloved stars have found a beautiful, triumphant second act by reconnecting directly with the millions of fans who have carried their memories across the decades. The world of international fan conventions and nostalgic retrospectives has become a sacred space where these legends are enveloped in pure adoration. Billy Dee Williams, at 89, continues to captivate audiences with his effortless swagger and velvet voice, balancing his nostalgic appearances with a lifelong passion for painting. The commanding John Rhys Davies, at 82, brings his booming voice and adventurous energy to extensive voice work and historical projects, remaining deeply admired worldwide. For generations of science fiction enthusiasts, the majestic Tom Baker, at 92, remains a cherished living legend, continuing his brilliant narration work, interviews, and convention appearances with the same wild, eccentric energy that defined his historic television career. In the realm of classic television, John Schneider and Tom Wopat, at 65 and 75 respectively, keep the carefree, masculine spirit of their golden years vibrantly alive through country music, independent filmmaking, and joyful fan interactions. The versatile Vanessa Williams, at 63, continues to perform beautifully on Broadway and support major charitable causes with enduring confidence, while the energetic Howie Mandel, at 70, utilizes his massive television platform and comedy tours to champion mental health awareness, turning his private struggles into a source of public inspiration. Character actors like Bernie Kopell, at 92, and Tom Atkins, at 90, find themselves warmly celebrated by devoted cult and comedy communities, proving that a truly memorable performance creates a bond that stands completely outside of time. Yet, for many of Hollywood's most elegant figures, the ultimate luxury of the final years is the quiet gift of absolute privacy, a serene retreat from the frantic pace of a world they once ruled. The brilliant British dramatic tradition remains elegantly anchored by Vanessa Redgrave, who at 89 lends her commanding voice to selective acting and humanitarian causes, and the magnificent Rosemary Harris, who at 99 stands as a towering symbol of theatrical perfection and enduring artistic influence. For others, the peace of a quiet life is found far from the spotlight. Robert Fuller, at 91, lives a tranquil existence on his ranch, quietly supported by the enduring affection of Western fan communities. The absolute icons of international glamour, the spectacular Ursula Andress, at 90, the mesmerizing Angie Dickinson, at 95, the fiery-haired Jill St. John, at 85, and the timeless Nancy Kovac, at 91, have all chosen a dignified path of absolute privacy, allowing their immortal cinematic images to speak for themselves. This quiet dedication to a private, creative life is shared by the revolutionary fashion icon Veruschka von Lendorf, at 87, and the beloved musical star Mitzi Gaynor, at 94. Whether through writing deeply personal literary memoirs like the graceful Claire Bloom at 94, living a quiet life focused on family in France like Leslie Caron at 95, or supporting vital health awareness documentaries like Mariam Darbo at 65, these legends continue to shape their own narratives. They are joined in this refined, quiet dignity by esteemed performers like Petula Clark at 93, Judy Parfitt at 90, Anita Gillette at 89, Hector Elizondo at 89, Susan Wooldridge at 74, Tom Courtenay at 89, Geraldine James at 76, Art Malik at 73, and Caroline Bliss at 64. Together they form a living constellation of a grander, more sophisticated time, a poignant reminder that while the physical gold of old Hollywood may have receded into history, the grace, the wisdom, and the monumental legacy of its greatest icons will endure forever in the cultural heart of the world. News banner. Bricking report: Hollywood in transition as over 60 legendary icons of the golden era face profound life alterations, recent losses, and the shift to absolute triplicity in 2026.